Okay, we're live from New York. We've got a great panel on this Trump interview that's just gone out, that just aired tonight on NDTV. Let's go straight across to our guests. We've got with us Puneet Ahluwalia. He's a former candidate for Lieutenant Governor. He's from Virginia. He's a Republican. Anand Ahuja is here with us. He's a Trump supporter, attorney at law from New York. We have Tara Karta, former director, National Security Council Secretariat. Casey Singh, distinguished former diplomat. Glenn Carl, he's a career CIA officer. But let me start with Raymond Vickery, who's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce and is currently at CSIS in Washington, D.C. Thank you all so much for being with us. If I can start with you, Raymond Vickery, as you heard, I don't know if you had a chance to hear Trump there, again making very broad hints in our interview that he is likely to run again. He says, I'm going to take a decision that will please a lot of people. What are your first thoughts? Does that fill you with anxiety for American democracy or not?
Well, thanks very much for having me, and congratulations, Srinivasan, for getting this interview. I thought it was breathtaking in the mendacity and the lies which were put out. And I noticed that you, throughout the program, had to put in corrections, starting with that Trump is ahead in the polls. That's just not true. You can go on 538 and see that that's not true. The business about what happened in winning the election. He didn't win the election. There were 50 court cases by 30 judges, approximately. It said that there was no evidence of that. You had to correct that. On Ukraine, that it would never have happened. You pointed out that that he had been praising Putin and really egging him on. And then the lie about his truth website is just not true, that it's doing great, it's in bed. So the whole mendacity of it is really shocking, and you can see what the outlines are going to be. In my view, yeah, it fills me with trepidation to think that this guy is going to run again, and it fills me with trepidation because of the principles and the values involved, and the chief value which India and the U.S. share is democracy. And if this is not an attack on democracy in terms of the way he conducts himself and continues to attack the veracity of the 2020 election, I don't know what is. And you can go online and you can see him saying that he's going to lead the mob up to the Capitol to keep Pence from certifying the election. And you can see online what he said about Pence, that he didn't do his job, and of course he did, and that what saved democracy. And it just goes on and on.
Right.
The good news is that India has strong friends, both Republican and Democrat, and that remains. But this is really a very, very scary prospect for democracy.
Okay. Right. Anand Ahuja, for those of us following what's been going on, these extraordinary set of events going on in America from a distance, it was quite something to come and actually interview former President Trump and actually hear him repeat many of those things that we've been seeing him say now for the past 2 years, especially repeating frankly the bogus claim that he won the election, and we've seen the terrible consequences of that. Isn't this now becoming a matter of concern even to people like you who are considered to be close to Trump, that this is just going too far? This is imperiling American democracy.
Yes, Srinivasan, to some extent you are correct. But at the same time, if you see the current policies which Democrats they have adopted, and especially I will make reference to this FBI raids at Mar-a-Lago, considering those events which are taking place today, to some extent, I believe that Trump is justified in making all those claims what he has made so far about the election of 2020. Exactly the same category.
How is that? No, sorry, I just want to understand, how are the two things connected? Even if there's a current regime which may be acting in ways that you might be critical of, that's the nature of all regimes. They may have good to them, they may have bad to them. But to fundamentally question the nature of the election itself, that the election was a lie, that Trump actually never lost, that is a different level of subversion of democracy and of the entire foundation on which a democracy like America functions.
Yes, because the last election, Democrats won not based upon fair game. They manipulated certain things. Say, for example, all of a sudden, the method in Pennsylvania, for example, overnight, the laws were changed and even late ballots were allowed to come in. Mail-in ballots I am referring to. The same dirty game.
Okay. Anand Ahuja.
If you see the timing, if you see the timing.
Okay, Anand Ahuja, we can't.
Before the election.
No, but I'm saying that's, again, linking ballots. Again, as we just heard from Raymond Vickery, there were multiple legal challenges, none of them won. But certainly the raids can be separately criticized. I mean, as a political party, there's a legitimate right to criticize the raids.
No, you are mixing up two things. In United States, every illegal thing is done through a legal way. Say, for example, corruption here is known as lobbying. So that doesn't mean that it's not a dirty game. So if you
all right, but that's still not a baseless. If again this is tied to the fact that the election was stolen, that's not a claim with any basis. But I need to move on. Sir, let me come back. I do need to move on. I have several other panelists waiting. Glenn Carl, a former CIA officer. This idea. So just moving away from this whole business of the stolen election, unsubstantiated claim, the fact that these raids are being seen as a form of reprisal and has, in a sense, bolstered Trump's, in a sense, the traction and popularity because he now is able to say that this is an attempt to target him. What is your sense, as someone who's been in the intelligence services, when you look at the kind of evidence that's coming out of these images of top secret files and whatnot, does it still merit the kind of action that was taken at Mar-a-Lago? Could it have been handled differently? Because now you've got a very unusual situation where a former president who's is getting set to run again is being investigated in this very serious way and might even cause impediments in his attempt to run again.
Yes, well, my reaction to one corrective with what otherwise are spot-on comments that you made. To characterize what the FBI did by serving a warrant and conducting a search as a raid actually falls into the false narrative of Trump and his crowd. It's not a raid. It was a legally performed execution of a search warrant, which had been signed off on according to legal proper procedure by multiple levels of the United States government. Now, to the question of, or the issue of the documents themselves, how significant this is and how this plays into the larger story. By way of preface, I first came to any sort of public role regarding Trump in the election about 7 years ago now, when a year or so before his election or victory, I noticed what were, and I'm a retired officer, but I, once an officer, always an officer, I noticed shocking correlations of Russian intelligence activity with Donald Trump and his family and entourage. And I tried to speak out and contact the authorities, all of which has been substantiated literally hundreds of times with open source documentation and verification. So it is profoundly alarming, as Mr. Vickery was talking about, in the larger sense, but also with documentation. Anyone in the American government who has access to classified information and who handled it remotely, as Trump has, would literally, this is not figurative, literally be in handcuffs and then in jail. I know people in jail who have done dramatically less than Trump has been shown to have done taking these documents. When you do this, you endanger many lives, billions of dollars of capabilities that take decades to create and to maintain. And you endanger specific people and the national security of the United States. That is not a joke. It is not hyperbole. It is a profound national security event done by a man who should, frankly, be in jail for having done it.
Okay. Puneet Ahluwalia, is this a kind of calculated risk the Republican Party seems to be taking, that a large chunk of them are backing Trump despite all of this? As Shalabh Kumar, who's this big Republican, Trump supporter, was saying in the interview, Trump is the Republican Party. Trump didn't disagree. He said that, look at the numbers. But is this a big risk?
First thing is I want to assure people of India that the republic, which the United States is safe. Our democracy is safe. We'll have issues like any democracy does, and then we'll get past that because we have a very robust and a check system that puts things in place. And the law will take its course, and we are ruled by the rule of law. That's very important, or governed by the rule of law. That's very important for folks to understand. And the reason is, yes, Trump is very popular. You can see because of the pain caused by the Biden administration and the bungling done from Afghanistan to Ukraine and other states. Look at the Abraham Accord. It all kind of fell to pieces. A great job done by President Trump, including the economy. But now we have the supply chain issues, how we still have the COVID mandates, which have been paralyzing businesses and economies, and people getting paid while staying at home. And we have labor issues. But let me come to what it is important.
No.
Yes, the things what President Trump does make him very popular. And at the same time, is he the face of the Republican Party? I disagree. We have Governor Youngkin, who is doing fantastically well, who may be running for president. We have DeSantis, governor of Florida, who's doing fantastically well, people are leaving other states and moving to Florida. We have Texas.
Do you think either of them could beat Trump for the nomination?
I would say it's the people of America who they feel is a strong leader who's going to give them the stability this country needs, which they have been facing with the Biden goof-ups and his missteps. That's what people are looking for, is someone who can really help to keep the food on the table and roof on their head.
But hold on, you think Trump is someone who suggests stability? That seems to be quite an extraordinary.
The media, you want to create a platform to bash up Trump, but I'm looking at what he did positively in terms of the growth of economy and the energy independence. The first thing Biden administration did, they basically cut off our energy independence.
A president who refuses to concede, who claims the election was stolen, which is a bogus claim, that's not media narrative.
That's history. We've moved.
That's a fact. But anyway, moving on.
If a president says I'm going to basically give everybody free tuition,
he hasn't.
Okay, that's another narrative.
All right, let me move on. Tara Karta, how much of the tremors of what we're seeing in America, that Trump is no longer president, but he still continues to exert this huge influence over what's going on in America. How much of this kind of democratic backsliding that we're seeing has consequences outside America's borders?
Look at the present now in the run-up to midterm elections. Look at how the debate is going. It's not about but the issues which Biden has dealt or not dealt with. It's not about that. It's become a Biden versus Trump narrative, with Trump kind of, which even I think the Republicans are uncomfortable with, because it's all about Trump. It's not about issues. And the figures, right? Trump's, I think it is since 1960s, a sitting president has never won the midterms, right? That's the kind of odds that they're, but this time that trend is likely to change because Biden seems to be on top, as recent polls show. He seems to be getting the better of it by simply being himself. So even if there, perhaps there are people who would want someone else to head the Democrats rather than Biden, but he's become the person who represents the obstacle against Trump. He's the man who's going to prevent Trump from becoming president again. That's how he's kind of presented himself. So he's got a pretty good chance. What is
Right.
it outside? It's not direct, this one, but I think the fact that all of us, let's face it, we benefited from a world order. I mean, lots of people won't like me saying this, but you benefited from a world order where stability, presidency, the US presidency stood for stability and democracy. That is no longer the case. And including, I would say, the so-called quote unquote, the raid, it smells terribly South Asian, this whole thing. If indeed those papers were top secret and referred to the nuclear secrets, it is shocking. I mean, if I come from that background,
Right.
I would collapse if I saw something like that. But it's an erosion of
Okay.
world order. So that's how I see it. It's
Right.
not good for us.
Casey
Democracy.
Singh, yeah. Okay. Casey Singh, I mean the same question to you that all of us watching this kind of democracy in almost in danger or certainly strained across the world. When you see this kind of escalating rhetoric coming out of America, how much should that concern us, no matter where we are, especially in India?
Well, there's one point, just 2-3 points very quickly. One is when it came to Ukraine, Trump had no clear answer on why Putin wouldn't have gone into Ukraine. But what you did not ask him was why he spent all his time going after the Ukrainian president to give him information about Biden's son and trade it off for weapons to be
Yes.
given only if he got information. Now, if those weapons had gone to Ukraine earlier, perhaps Russia wouldn't have come in. So, there is contributory negligence on his part to keep Ukraine weak. And therefore, Putin was encouraged once he found. Secondly, the handling of the pandemic. We know how he treated it. He thought it's just a normal disease. He fell ill himself. And then, rather belatedly, he caught up with it. So Biden was really handed an economy which was already on the back foot because of the pandemic. And he made the best of it that he possibly could.
Right.
And he came in saying there's danger to democracy. And every time Biden has said that we have a finger pointing back at us too. Because US cannot be going around dispensing democratic principles abroad if democracy at home is in danger. And it is in danger if you get somebody like Trump again. You can see if you do not accept the basic concept of a winner being the winner simply through an election. And you say every election is that way. And you're seeing the same thing happening in Brazil. You find the president there now saying, whatever the result, I'm not going to accept it. And these are all right-wing leaders who have risen in the shadow of Trump. So there is a damage globally to the concept, basic rules of democracy. And Biden has tried very hard. And that's why he had a democracy summit. And final point, the most shocking is for Indian origin person to sit with Trump and keep talking of Hindu Americans. They are Americans of Indian origin. Now, why are you dividing them into Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, Christians? Are you taking the divisiveness of India? So very clearly, this interview has been given with the midterms in mind. Now, if in the midterms, the latest data which is coming out is the Senate has become a toss-up. What was seen as a certain win for the Republicans is a toss-up in the Senate. And in the House, they may capture it. And if they capture the House, then the caucus which is controlled by, it's not all the members who are controlled, but the caucus which is controlled by Trump, we may find a very fractious Congress because they will start all kinds of proceedings against the president, against the attorney general, against various things through the kind of lies that Trump dispenses. And we saw a display of that.
Right. Right. No, you're not wrong about the timing and also just to say that I of course wanted to ask President Trump or former President Trump many more follow-up questions on many of his claims, including Ukraine, including on the election and so on. But you know how these things are. Time is limited, and also there's a sense from him that he doesn't like to be probed too much on these aspects, which is why we also had to do a kind of post facto, in a sense, fact check some of those claims. But just as we sort of wind down on time, just coming back to you, Raymond Vickery, that overall, like you said, you might have these concerns about what is going on with the Republic, but given the momentum that we do see coming from the Trump side, particularly after the raids and so on and so forth, or not raids as Glenn Carl says, but searches, is there a sense in which the Democrats are not able to fully push back, are not able to, in a sense, join the fight? Or do you see that something is shifting?
Well, I think something's shifting. I think that people are getting tired of this constant repetition of lie after lie after lie. And I think that even the Republicans you mentioned other people who may run. There are people who are saying, look, we may agree on some of these policy points, but we don't want a guy who's going to undermine democracy, attack elections, attack, one thing that I want to pick up on with Ambassador Singh is this point about Hindu Americans. The chief cornerstone of the MAGA Trumps is Christian nationalism. And that has been the touchstone for appointments to the Supreme Court, for appointments to the other courts. Christian nationalism. And for someone who is not a Christian to say, well, we just kind of disregard this attack on democracy and the rule of law is astounding to me. It has to be the case that Hindus, Sikhs, non-believers, whoever, are protected by the basic principles and values of democracy and the rule of law. And that is what Trump is attacking. And I think, going to your question, Srinivasan, that it is, people are waking up to it. To say that he's ahead, it's inevitable, it's going to happen, just not true in the polls. And it's the same thing that he was saying in 2020. Oh, we can't lose and so forth. And this whole bogus business about, well, he got more votes than he did before. Well, more people voted. More people voted. We had to vote in ways which we hadn't done because of the pandemic. And people turned out just because they were afraid of this guy, Trump.
Okay. Well, let's see how it plays itself out. But, American politics poised on the razor's edge. And that Trump interview gave us an insight into what is really going on. But thank you all so much indeed for joining us.